Welcome to the Road is Dead podcast, episode 119. I'm your host, Rob Curtis, joined in the studio today with
Leah Sanda.
And remotely we have
Tim Strelecki.
All right. I'm the only one in the room for whom the cyclocross season is over.
Yeah,
Yay.
You're hyped.
I you know I won't be in like a week, but right now I'm okay with it. Pretty okay with it.
Yeah.
Although I already got a text from a friend this morning. It said, I just put my bike down in the basement and I am sad. So, which I totally get.
I've been there.
But so you guys still have nationals coming up this week. This week is going to be a packed week for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to nationals. Wish I was going along. That I could help out in the pits and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are getting prepared to go. I know, even though I'm not racing anymore this season, I still have glue jobs to do. I've got quite a few downstairs already that I got to get done before Wednesday.
Jeez.
As they all head out. So, and I'm ordering up parts for people and getting some stuff done. So I'm still in the cross season, I will say. But you guys are like kicking into the big show at this point. But
I got something to say about that. For me, I'm keeping it super simple. I'm not changing anything I've done all year, all season. My equipment is what it is. I'm not like, my cleats are fine. I'm not going to like struggle to put new cleats on and have them be off by a millimeter and have it be all messed up. And, you can obsess to the point of almost nausea.
Yeah.
And it's just like not worth it. It's not worth it. It's just a bike race. I mean, your equipment is what it is. Nothing that you do is going to magically give you the I don't know the word, but it's not going to make you do any better. That work's already been done. A new chain's not going to give you 5 extra watts. New tires aren't going to make you go faster. They'll give you better traction, which may make you go faster, but I think you can get lost in a lot of the detail work that goes into nationals when, in essence, nationals is another bike race.
Right. Speaking of chains, I just realized I probably need to go through my bike because of the sand yesterday and clean or replace that chain depending on its condition. I mean, I didn't like fall in the sand or anything, but you're right. Some of it you're riding, some of it I was running.
So we can jump into it. Race yesterday was the last race of the Chicago Cyclocross Cup. All 3 of us raced there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the Montrose course held in Montrose Beach on the shore of Lake Michigan in Chicago, kind of north side-ish. Nice to be able to. I think at one point I was warming up before my race and went a little farther south of the start area, and it opens up and there was this beautiful view of the Chicago skyline. And of course I didn't have my phone. It was sitting back in my bag in the tent. So I didn't get a chance to take a picture, but picturesque, always a great view. Good venue in that respect. Convenient venue for 90% of the Chicago kids. And my apologies for referring to everybody as Chicago kids. You're not all Chicago kids, but there are a lot of Chicago kids. And when I say Chicago kids, it's because they're not grown-ups. Sorry.
Well, you are 50 now.
I am.
So there's a lot of
I can start yelling at people to get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people that you can consider kids, even if they're 30.
Oh, crap. I am 50. I had my birthdays last week. I had some 50 balloons that say 50 and stuff I brought today, but they're downstairs in the car. I meant to bring them up to put them on the thing for the podcast, but oh well.
That's all right.
I guess we won't do that one
next time.
But the venue is known for the sand that it has. I have been listening to a lot of podcasts, not a lot, Cycling Social podcast, and they were talking to a lot of the junior kids and kids from the U.S. and asking them what the major difference was going to Europe. And they kept saying the sand, because even if we have sand in the U.S., it's all just one level sand, kind of like a volleyball court.
Not deep.
You just kind of ride across it, and it's not deep usually. I will say this feature does have sand that has hills. I wouldn't call them hills, but has some, topography. There's some turns. There's some undulation to it. Definitely something we don't get anywhere else in the series. That being said, not exactly something I'm a huge fan of. But the race yesterday, because they had to eliminate probably the only other semi-technical feature in that venue. So, which I don't know, I find is weird because you could have done a lot of technical stuff over on Cricket Hill.
Dude,
and could have added a lot over there.
I second that. I thought about it this morning. Like I woke up at midnight to go to the bathroom, and then I couldn't fall back asleep, so I was just up. Like,
oh, you're 52 then?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Maybe, yeah. So my brain was racing all over the place, and I kept thinking about the race and other things, and then I had a thought where I was like, they had so much more they could have done on Cricket Hill, just like you, Rob, where they wasted a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I believe that, but they got to do what they got to do.
Well, the hype of that venue is the sand, and if you spend 50% of the course over on Cricket Hill, there's no one's going to migrate over to Cricket Hill. And
I think it's more that it's not necessarily just that the hype's the sand; it's the fact that all the tents are over there, and all the people are over there, so they want to put as much course over there.
Yeah, no, I get
90% of our series doesn't have. I mean, the venues are such that a lot of the racing is away from where the tents are and the people are. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, think about it. Think about our course. We hang out by the tents, and then we disappear in the woods for a little bit, and then we come back.
Yeah. Which is kind of what happens with Cricket Hill.
Yeah.
But there could have been more over there. The way the sand was laid out, it just definitely didn't benefit me. I'll jump in and do my 5 second on my race because
cheers, do it.
We've been doing that. Started like I actually got a really good start. It was a long pavement start, and that's kind of what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved up pretty far. And then it goes right from there, left-hander, and you start climbing Cricket Hill, kind of a long, steady grade, and then a kick to a much steeper grade at the very end. It is pretty much all out at your start for, I don't know, minute and a half.
Did you guys have any headwind on Cricket Hill in the morning?
It was full headwind.
Okay.
Full headwind.
Yeah, same.
And I'll hit that in a second. Whoever was in front of me, there was somebody in front of me that was wearing a ton of either deodorant or cologne or something. And it was enough that it was choking us out back where we were. I almost could not breathe because of that going up that hill. But, also could have been because I was going, nuts. But
better than them going the other way and being body odor.
Yeah. Well, I know. I actually, though, kind of was like, I was thinking about that because I was like, hey, it's better than body odor. And then I went, is it? Is it really?
It's not. It's not.
Because,
not
that's
in
all
summer group rides.
Yeah. That's all chemically. And I don't like that. But anyway.
Sorry.
It kicked. And I was starting to lose some positions before it kicked. But then when it kicked, it was just like, everybody just flying past me.
Mm.
And that was pretty much the end of it. I was still in front of a couple people, but then we got to the sand. I made the last minute choice to run dunes. And I was super glad that I did. Those dunes were amazing on that sand.
You're welcome.
And the rest of the course was dry,
mm-hmm.
So I had no problems with grip anywhere.
Mm.
And when I hit that sand, I had tons of traction, absolutely more traction I've ever had in the sand, which was cool, except it was deep enough and soft enough in two of the sections that I could not ride them. If there had been somewhat of a rut, I think I probably could have ridden them, but it was the second race of the morning, and whatever rut was getting developed was getting run and trampled over, with every other rider anyway. So it became a lot of running in sand. Running, I mentioned this to G. I was texting G, and I mentioned, it was a lot of running. Not to mention that it was running in sand. And he goes, and I go, which is strange. I should have done better. I've been running pretty much, here and there throughout the season and haven't been doing that bad. I've been doing a lot better with running. And he goes, yeah, running is one thing. Running after an interval is another thing.
It's a fact.
And running in sand after an interval is something else completely different.
And then having to do that interval as soon as you get out of the sand again.
Yeah.
And again and again.
Yeah. So it had the long sand, and then you would dump out. It had a big turn in it, a little climb in it, and then it would dump out onto a path that was just long enough that I didn't want to run down it, but just short enough that remounting it was kind of pointless. But then you're back into sand and running a very long section of it uphill. And just that sand right there, I said goodbye to everyone on the first lap. And there was only one other guy. I think he got around me shortly after. I saw him for a bit and I kind of battled enough. I passed him and then I didn't see him again for the rest of the race. So I think I literally beat one person in the results, and then there were 2 DNFs. So I literally finished in front of 3 people. And absolutely, I don't want to say the worst race I had all year. It could have been a lot worse. But, after that happened, and I think I had said the last time I registered for the Cat 4 and for the first race of the day for me, 45 plus, going. I didn't want to end the season on a bad note. So if I had a bad race in the morning, I was going to race again in the afternoon. About 3/4 of the way through that morning race, I said, I don't want to do this sand again in the afternoon. So I am done. And that is the end of my season. And I was actually okay with it. I was happy about it. Glad I got that race in. I missed racing. The week off that we had kind of sucked. I really do like racing every week. So it's now as an adjustment. Now I'm on to fat bike season or something else. I don't know. That's my race. I'm done.
Go for it, Leah.
Yeah, Leah should go next.
Okay. I decided to race the women's masters. It's the first time I've raced any masters race all season. The only reason I haven't been racing masters is because the races tend to be really short, and I knew I had nationals coming up, so I've been racing the Cat 3 race all season for the 40 to 45 minute race. And I really have not had a good. I had some little health issues all November, so I missed a bunch of training, and I'm just like, all right. Talk to my coach. She's like, yeah, if you can race twice the week before nationals, it'll be good for you. So I did. Masters race, small field, but some very strong girls in this race. And I thought I did everything I needed to do in my warm up, and I'm not quite sure why this happened to me again, but we get going on the start and my legs light up on fire, screaming at me before we're even to the hill. And I'm just like, son of a bitch. And I'm trying to just tell myself, ignore the pain, pedal, pedal, pedal. And it just, I was in such severe pain that first climb up that hill. And it was just so disheartening, to have that happen at the beginning of my race. So Laura Alanya, Anne-Marie Oswald, and Christy Dallaire were all ahead of me. And I'm like, it's a short race, just stay in it, stay on it. And I know Laura and Anne-Marie and Christy are super strong, and it's going to, if I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to, I could see Christy. I felt like the whole race, I was like in this same gap behind her the whole race. I felt like we were like turning same lap times. I just could not get any closer to her. So I finished 4th, one step off the podium, which was kind of a bummer. I was really kind of hoping to hit the podium for Masters. And then, Cat 3-4 race. I didn't do any hard efforts before that race. I just sat on the trainer just to spin really loose for about 25 minutes and just really just focusing on high cadence and just keep my legs loose. I did a couple short just like jumps right before we lined up and staging. And the same thing happened to me right at the start. We get to the hill and my legs are screaming bloody murder at me. Whole bunch of girls come around me. I was like, here we go again. I was so disheartened that I was seriously thinking about pulling the plug in the race. I come around onto the finish stretch after lap 1, and somebody's like, "Good job, you're in 10th." And I was just like, "Oh, really? Is that really going to be my day?" And I was like, "No, just shut up, Leah, and pedal your bike."
Yeah.
And I could see there's this cluster of women. They weren't that far ahead of me. I was like, you never know. The race is not over yet. Just keep pedaling.
Yeah.
And anyway, I need to practice the running in the sand. I had things in my head for running in the sand that I really wanted to focus on, to really focus on picking my feet up quickly and leaning forward to like fall forward, as opposed to trying to push off the ground hard and not stop. Don't walk. Just run. I don't care how much it hurts. Just keep running in the sand. And I did that every single lap. So as hard, as painful as that was, I needed that practice. So I was kind of grateful for that, because I don't know if I'm going to have to do any running at nationals. Anyway, I was able to catch up with and pass enough women to finish 4th in that race, which
awesome.
I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
I was really, and I didn't get any faster. I certainly didn't get any faster, but people faded, and I was able to capitalize.
Yeah.
And that, the first one, you get that extra motivation to keep going, to try to get the next
Little
one.
Carrots.
And look, anytime, when you come down Cricket Hill and you have those sweepy turns, I was flying through there. And if there was anybody in front of me, I immediately closed up on them. I made a lot of my passes right in that stretch right there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, again, one step off the podium in the Cat 3/4s, but
it's all right.
A lot of good lessons learned in that race. So yeah, I'm pretty content with, I'm not where I wanted to be going into nationals, but I'm
Well, I think the two race effort, like your coach had said, is probably a good idea, since you've been struggling with your health, and then having like good quality racing in your legs. So the two was probably good. And at first, when you mentioned it, I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea. But number one, I'm not your coach, and number two, you have a full 7 days before you race again, so you can recover for sure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And the biggest victory is the fact that you stayed in it. If you had pulled the plug, you would be killing yourself right now.
Right. Oh yeah, 100%.
So, and bike racing, especially cyclocross, a lot of it, 50% of it is mental and 50% of it is fitness, if not more. So the fact that you stayed in it when everything was just telling you to pull the plug is a huge victory.
Yeah.
And that'll set you up for any kind of hiccups, you may experience next Sunday.
Using that logic, I guess I've had huge victories all season.
I mean, you gotta like, standing on the podium is cool, and it looks cool for Instagram. But if you physically and mentally if you mentally can battle through and have those victories within yourself, that beats any top step any day.
Yeah, that was totally my win, my personal win and victory for the weekend was that. So, so I come away from the weekend pretty darn happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Then we, of course, get to your race, Tim.
Oh boy,
it was fun. It was fun watching it from the pits. I'll say that.
Yeah, thank you for being in there. I do. I do appreciate that more than you know, or that I expressed to you. Because I haven't, I've been fortunate enough to not have to go into the pit. And I'm always like, every time I lay my bike in the pit, I'm like, okay, you're kind of a one-man band here. What's going to be the easiest for you? And then I go back and forth with myself. Do I put it at the beginning of pit 1 or the beginning of pit 2? The end of pit 1? And I'm just like, just shut up and lay your bike down and figure it out if you need to come in here. So the fact that you're in there is a huge help. So thank you. All right. So... the 1, 2, 3 race. It was, it was a good race. I got everything out of it that I wanted. With Roscoe having been sick, and not seeing him on the pre-reg list, I was like, okay, so that's taken away. And then I saw Nate on the list, and I'm like, okay, now one's gone, one's in. So my reality was, I don't necessarily know. I'd have to have the day of days to hang with Nate. Especially with the sand. Nate's really good in the sand. Nate's just a fantastic technical rider in general. So, line up on the start line, front row, and I'm like, okay, I don't like stress out about the starts like I used to. I'm just like, we'll go when we go, and you'll figure it out in the first 100 meters. So I got Drake on my right, Drake Dash on my right. I got, I don't know how do you pronounce his name, Blaze. I just call him Blaze. You've seen him before. He's been on the front row all year. But I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. I've never started next to these guys. So Mr. Folks blows the whistle, and these two, Drake comes in to the left, the other guy comes into the right and like pinches me, and I'm like, oh, great, already. We're not even 5 feet off the line. Like, I don't even know if my back tires crossed the white line yet. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. So I got pinched off a little bit there. Then it kind of fanned out. And I think going into the first corner, I was maybe sixth or seventh wheel, and I'm like, this is fine. I'll just, just sit in the wheels, and when it pitches, I'll kick. And then I did exactly that. And I think I kept feeling like as we were going towards the steeper part of the climb, I kept feeling like a handlebar in my right butt cheek. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. So I just kept moving over to the right. And I think after we got, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we get to the steep part of the climb, get to the top. I get up into third. I'm like, all right, cool. This is good. That worked out perfectly. So I think Rory's in the lead. He got a vicious hole shot. He wanted to make, I think, he wanted to make the class and the beach his bitch for the day. Like, he took off like I'd never seen him take off before. And I was like, whew, that might not be good. I don't know who was in second, maybe Andrew Sparks, and I got into third wheel. So we're going, and Nate, as we turned to descend Cricket Hill for the first time, Nate just ripped around me, and I was like, okay, that handlebar I was feeling must have been Nate, because he blew by me. I got on his wheel, so I was in fourth for a while. I'm like, I'm not stressing out because I know the sand's coming, and I know what's going to happen. So we get there, and my plan the whole time, like even in pre-ride, I'm like, actually it started when I watched the pre-ride video. I was like, okay, these sections I know from the past and I know from this video look deep. I'm just going to run these. And that was my plan. I had no grandiose, like, I got to make this cool for Instagram moment and try to ride it. I'm not burning my energy. I've been working on my running all year. My legs are good. I'm fast. I just ran that whole section. Like, as the race went on, I went deeper into it and then hopped off, but I just basically ran. And as the race went on, I could hear people, you could see people getting more and more tired, people that were trying to ride it, people that didn't have running fitness. So by the end of the first lap, I think I was in fourth. Yeah, I was in fourth. I got a funny story to tell you, and you're going to laugh your ass off when you hear this. So in fourth for a while, just, doing the race. The race is doing its thing. I'm good. I'm not blowing myself up. I'm letting other people do that, and it's working. So I'm like, okay, I'll just sit and do my thing. So I think like lap 3 or 4, we make our way out to Cricket Hill, right? And Malik's out there, and he's got like this deep heckle voice, and it's always the same tone. And he starts heckling me like, he's like, come on, Rob Curtis. Come on, Anthony Mikas. And he keeps saying it. He's like, go, Rob Curtis. And I got little George Swinand on my wheel, right? And I'm like, for the longest time, I'm like, I can't shake this kid. Like, what's gotten into this? I can't shake this kid. He's still right here. And I'm not sweating it because I know as the race goes on, he's young. He doesn't have, old man strength. So as Malik keeps yelling that heckle, every time we start to like take the last couple turns on Cricket Hill, I hear him in the back when we're going. He's verbally saying, he's like, who's Rob Curtis? Like, he's saying this, and over as Malik keeps saying that heckle, he's just like, who is Rob Curtis? Like twice now on Cricket Hill, that lap and the lap after, and he just keeps saying it, and I'm in my head, I'm trying to focus, but I am laughing my ass off for the fact that he's just like, who's Rob Curtis?
That explains. I didn't know Malik was out there. He does that all. It's been doing that for years. But afterwards, Monty from Half Acre, I was walking by and he goes, man, I don't know who it was, but there was somebody up on the hill that kept calling Tim Rob Curtis.
Dude, it was
lap.
hysterical.
He goes, I had to go over and tell him. I was like, dude, that's not Rob Curtis.
Yeah. It was so funny. Like the first couple times, it was
for those that don't
hilarious.
know. That's the joke.
Yeah,
that's the joke.
Yeah, it was hilarious the first couple times. And just to have George be like, "Who's Rob Curtis?" And I didn't want to like have banter back and forth with him because we're trying to do a thing here, and the last thing I need to do is lose focus. So yeah, that was really, really a funny moment. That kind of like,
yeah, dude, Swinan was chomping on your wheel.
Oh, I know.
For a long time, man.
I know he was.
Every time he come by the pits, it looked like he was like half lapping your wheel and everything. I was like, he's gonna run into the back of you at some point.
No, I knew, and at first it was discouraging because I'm like, I can't shake this kid, and everywhere I'd get a gap, he would come back somewhere, and I don't know exactly where it was because I could tell by the shadows in certain spots, like if he's close or if he's not close. And I'm like, if you just keep your tempo, this kid doesn't have it. This kid doesn't have the strength. I don't care. Like if you're in your mid-20s, you have some of that strength. But I've been racing for 44 years, 3 times longer than that kid's been alive. I've got that kind of engine and that endurance and that grind. And that kid just doesn't have it in his body yet. So I knew at some point he was going to explode. And, I think another lap after that, he was gone. Like, I don't know if he had something happen to him mechanically or if the sand just got to him.
No,
the sand got to a lot of people. Yeah. The sand made people just blow. So anyway, back into the race. We're doing our thing after the heckling. And Malik's continuing to do this. And I started to get mad. Like I started to have like that Woodstock moment where I almost pulled over and was like, dude, you need new material. Like it was starting, it started to bother me. Like it started to bother me because when I had back in 3 or 4 years ago, I went in the CC, I had long hair. I looked like Jeff Spicoli and he would always heckle me like, come on Spicoli, like in that Malik way. And it was the same kind of heckle and it started to just irk me. And I almost was like, I almost was going to scream at him, but I was like, just keep your cool, focus on what you're doing. It's funny, even though it's not funny right now. It's okay. So a couple laps go by and I found my way to third wheel. Rory's right in front of me. He's not pulling away in the typical Rory fashion. Like Rory's got a motor. He wasn't pulling away in certain spots. I could pull him back. And then we round the tight little twisty bits after we pass pit 2 and he hops the first barrier and then like stops before the second one. So I don't know if he had a mechanical, I don't know if he flatted, I don't know if he cased the first board, but he just like stopped in the middle. So I just swung wide, hopped around him, and then I was in second. I'm like, okay, a little bit of a gift, but I'll take it. And I knew Nate was up the road a little bit, so I just dug in from there and tried my best to bring Nate back, just staying smooth, staying like within myself. I brought him back to probably within 10 seconds, and then the last lap he was just like he gassed it, and I think it ended up being like 14 seconds by the end. So second on the day, second in the state championship, won the series overall, which is a first in that field. So I'm psyched on that. But if I got like I told a lot of people, if I got to lose to a dude, I don't mind losing to Nate. Nate's a quality rider. I've been racing against him for years. I'm okay with it, even though I'm not okay with it. I feel like I felt in 2016 when an out of towner came in and swiped the state championship away from me. The only difference here is Nate was a participant in our series up till now. Like he raced a few races. The other dude just flew in for the championship and then like stole it and didn't participate, which I'm kind of salty about still. And that's like 6 years ago. But, Nate did race a few races and it's cool. I mean, it was a good event. I was prepared for it. I had to kind of like manage it because I don't have too many days between the Sunday effort and Friday. So you don't want to like shoot all your bullets. So even though there's a carrot dangling and a jersey's nice and all, you gotta like to dose your effort. You can't shoot all your bullets and not be able to recover in 5 days.
Right.
So
right.
that was kind of in the back of my mind. And when I saw, when I came to get the bell and I saw Nate taking the corner to go back up the asphalt start straight, I was like, all right, dig in, and if he's close by the time you get to the top of Cricket Hill, go for it. If not, then just focus on what you're doing and don't throw this in the garbage. So that's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's an important race coming up after, you gotta play it smart.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it was good.
So
It looked good, and it was fun to watch.
I was surprised at how many people blew up. I was surprised, but then I wasn't surprised,
Yeah.
And I was, like the rest of everybody on lap one, going through the sand at full gas was like, oh, good Lord. Like just that, like that chunk in the middle, after the murder hut and then that part up into the path. That was the hardest part. Everything else was rideable.
Did you remount between those two stretches?
Initially, I did. Initially, it wasn't my plan to. I was thinking to myself, just run this. But then I thought, well, a few pedal strokes will give you a break. You could take a deep breath and then get back off and run through the next section. So I did that, and it was good. I was solid all the way through the thick sand, up into the hill, into that path. And I think as the laps clicked off, the difference for me was when I got over that, you had the little uphill, then you had that hump before you got back onto the flat path.
Yeah.
I ran over the hump and I ran on the path. Like I took 5 or 6 really fast steps before I remounted to build my speed up to gap anybody that maybe had tried to mount on the hump. And I think that got me created a lot of opportunity for me as far as getting away from the people that were behind me.
Yeah.
Because I tried once on like lap 3 to mount on top of that hump, and it was terrible.
Yeah, I did that once, and I was like, "Oh, that was a bad idea."
Yeah, like lap 1 and 2, I ran fast onto the path. Lap 3, I mounted on the hump, and it was really slow. And I think I was in the wrong gear too. So thereafter, I just hauled ass on the path on foot to build my speed up to to get back into it. And then that right hand turn, dropping down on like pre-race Instagrams, I was watching the earlier Mastersfield, and I saw Jostein actually take a wide line. In one of the posts that EMC put up, he took a wide line and then cut the corner, and I was like, oh, that looks good. So I tried that in pre-ride, and I was like, yep, that's the line. At least it was for me, because I noticed a lot of people would they would hug the inner part of the corner, and then it's like you got to almost come to a stop to make that corner, and then right when you stop, there's a big fluff of sand. So if you stop right there, you're losing all your momentum. So I swung it wide, kept my speed up for that little climb to the next sand section. I was like, thanks, Jostein, that was good. It pays to watch Instagram in the morning before your races.
Yeah.
But
I would, but I'm in those races.
You are.
Yeah, that with that complex of turns, that right, and then that little there was one lap that I took the completely wrong line, and I'm like, what are you doing, Leah? You knew I had the line dialed, like my first 2 laps, and then like lap 3, I just did it completely differently, and it sucked, and it was slow. And
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
Yeah, and not everything was perfect in the sand, for sure. I mean, I didn't practice sand. The last time I rode sand was December of 2003. I got this wild hair at my ass because I was like, oh, I'm going to, I raced like a couple races in 2023 in our series just to scratch the itch. And then I went and just rode a bunch of sand like the day after on like a Monday. I was like, all right, cross is going to be here in a year. I got to practice.
Yeah.
And then that was the last time I rode sand until Sunday. So I haven't practiced my sand. I mean, I watched a lot of sand on YouTube from Belgium, but that doesn't really mean you're going to ride it well just by watching it. So I did okay.
A little Barry-Roubaix sand action probably mixed in, but
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, for what I have to practice on, I don't even think I could practice in a way that would really help. outside of just doing it and pre-lapping it enough before on the day of. Because you never know how it's going to be laid out there. I mean, there's some years where it's a non-thing, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to incorporate sand, and they certainly did a good job of putting that section in. If that section wasn't in there, or if it went a different way, like if you just blasted straight through it, it would have kind of been a non-factor.
Yeah.
But going around the murder house and having those series of turns before the thick stuff made it, a good feature. And that's what you want to see. That's what cyclocross races have to have, is the features that are in it need to kind of be a difference maker and showcase riders' talents in different ways. Like the barriers. If you can hop them, it's a difference maker. You have that skill set. It can make all the difference in your race. If you can ride sand well, that certainly could make it, especially in the layout that they had it could certainly make a huge difference. Like if I had spent hours and hours practicing sand and felt like the sand yesterday was a non-factor and I could just blast my way through it, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And cross courses need to have features that are difference makers in a race. And that
I was sitting there thinking they didn't necessarily need those barriers. That thought hit me maybe last lap as I was coming through them. I'm like, you know what? You don't even really need these here. I don't want to say they're completely out of place. I mean, they fit, but it's like with all the running and all the sand that was already there, that kind of takes the place of the need to dismount in another section.
Yeah, but think about it. If you possess one of those two skills, your race isn't that hard. Now, if you don't have either of those skills, your race is exponentially harder because now you're forced to get off the bike again. Which is not easy to do for 40 to 45 minutes straight, unless that's how you train. I mean, again, for me, the barriers weren't hard.
Yeah, they weren't hard. I'm not necessarily saying that. It was just more in my mind. I was just like, we don't need the barriers, but I don't know. But, they do have a sponsor that they have painted all over that barrier. I think it's kind of part of the sponsorship they've got worked into it. So,
I mean,
I think that's going to stay there just for that reason. But I don't think it necessarily added or subtracted from it. It was just kind of there.
I would say this: if you had maybe one more sand section that was challenging, you definitely don't need those, because the heart of the sand was hard, but everything thereafter was relatively easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you had that little part off of the lakefront path where you drop back in. That wasn't necessarily deep. You had to make some turns, but you could lose it there if you weren't dialed. But the next section after that, where you guys pinched the Cat 5s off to like 5 inches, that's a straight.
That was easy to ride.
That's a straight shot. You just the only thing you have to do is build up speed.
Yeah.
And it's not hard.
And that was a section where having those dunes, it was like I didn't even think about it. I just rode through it.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, everything else. And then after that, I think what was harder than that section was the following section out to like pit 2, where it was just, brain was getting rattled from all the bumps. But that's what cross is.
For sure.
That's what cross is,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think my tire pressure was too high for the Masters race.
What did you have?
I left the rear. I think I was probably like 24 in the front, 25 in the rear.
Wow.
Or 23 in the front, 24 in the rear, somewhere around there. Yeah, it was a little too high. I didn't even measure it for the 3-4 race. I took a couple bumps out the front, but I left the rear where it was, and I know it did. Tubulars, they're going to lose. They probably lost a little bit of pressure between the two races. And it felt perfect in race 2.
Nice.
Like the front, lowering it down, I was probably around 21, 22. So I took a good chunk out of the front.
Yeah.
And that was a lot nicer. It took a lot of the front end chatter out of it, but still kept some of the speed at the rear. And I had the Griffos for both races.
I was just going to ask you.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. If I could have, I didn't use my Griffos because that 38 rear had popped at the last race. I had put sealant in and it was holding,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't want to try it in a race, so to speak.
Yeah.
It would have been something if I could have pre-ridden for a long time, or I don't know. I just didn't feel confident in it, so I didn't want to mess with it. And I had those dunes, so it was like, let's play with those dunes. Putting those in, they're red sidewall dunes. Got those in 2020 from one of the mechanics on the old Cannondale team. He was dumping the tires because they weren't racing that year, and I picked them up from there. They've been sitting around. I glued them up. That set I glued up for you for nationals at Kentigny as a backup. Maybe if it snows, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of used them off and on since then. And I had them. I set them. I run higher than you guys, but I ran 25 in the front, 20. No, maybe 24 in the front, 26 in the rear.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first went out, I was like, it's too high. That's too much chatter.
Mm.
And it's interesting, though, as I kept pre-riding, it seemed like the rear got softer a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I was losing some air out of the rear. But it ended up being just fine then.
Mm.
But the front was still a little too stiff. And I dropped it down, I think, to around 22 to go back out. So, and then it was fine. 22 and a half, 23 in that range.
Yeah.
And I know Anthony borrowed them later for the rear. We didn't have the end caps to let him use the front, but he used the rear. Was like, yeah, dude, it's like magic how much that hooks up on the sand. It was just crazy. It's almost like they invented it specifically for the sand.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't even feel the sand.
Yeah, it feels like grass.
Yeah, if you're in a rut, it's like you're riding on asphalt. It's that smooth.
It is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
And it was nice. He dumped it down, way down. He's been riding in the teens pretty much all year. I don't know why. I don't know how, but he's been riding in the teens. And he says he loves it. And he's in, I'm not light. He's not heavy, but he's even more than I am in weight. So,
wow.
I don't know how he's doing it.
Yeah.
He's been riding I don't want to say 18, 19 in that range.
Yeah. After I saw some of the stuff online, like especially the pre-ride video, I had Griffos on, and then I panic swapped on Saturday night to chicanes, and then I swapped back because my chicanes weren't holding air, and then I got to the race, talked to you, Rob, and we had a little convo about it, and you're like, just do the chicanes. So I did the chicanes, and I'm so glad that you talked me back into it, because at 22 in the front, 24 in the rear, perfect. I think like you, Leah, like they lose a little. I think the rear lost a little bit during the event, but it didn't matter. And they were like, it was just like free speed.
Yeah.
It was free speed for me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, especially on the start finish straight, and then going out towards Cricket, I was like, I have like no resistance. This is great.
Yep. That all was hard pack, and it was just like, it was like spinning a road tire.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
Yeah.
There was no grip issues anywhere.
Nope.
So it wasn't like it was a big issue.
I did slide around.
I didn't slide once.
I did. Top of Cricket, you go left.
Yeah.
Right, and then you go left, and then that right coming back around to that sweeper. I got a little close to the tape and hit some marbles, and the rear was like, and I was like, that's okay. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, they were so good. You just rip.
Yeah.
Free speed anywhere. I was thinking this morning when I was taking them off to put my training wheels on, I'm like, I wish I could learn to ride these in mud.
Yeah.
These would be awesome. Like I would just use this tire all the time. It's such a good tire.
Now, didn't you tell me that Rory was running Limas? Somebody told me he was running Limas.
I think I did, because I noticed it at Woodstock after he won, and I was like, I wonder what kind of tire he had on. So, I went over after he won on Sunday. I went, congratulated him, and I took a peek at his tires, and I was like, I think they were Limas. They could have been babies. I don't know.
Babies, yeah.
But either way, I was like, that they're kind of Velcro for what we're dealing with here. And then at the podium, I was talking with Nate, and I looked at his, and I think he had babies on, and I was like, damn it, he had babies on.
Yeah.
He whooped us. Good thing he didn't have chicanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's probably right up there. It's probably the best Montrose I've had in years. Granted, I
Nice.
sat a few years out just because I don't like that venue.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do when you go there with a purpose other than what the purpose of that event is for? It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, at least that's how I view it.
Yeah, I'm not. I've said it before. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't. I'm going to try not to quote unquote hate it, because at the very end of the day, when we're all lined up and everyone's giving the fives hell, it is something to behold.
Well, I think
it
that's
is an experience.
That's the crown jewel of that event.
Yeah.
The whole experience of Montrose has nothing to do with the 8 other races that are throughout the day, or 9 other races or categories throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's strictly for that Cat 5 race. That's it. That is what that event thrives on. That's what that event looks forward to. And that event is dubbed as the party. So, that Cat 5 race is the party, and it's successful every year.
I'm waiting. Usually after big things like that, you see a lot of comments afterwards where people going, "Oh, I just wish I could have raced. I'm a Cat 5. That's my race, and everybody messed with me coming through." Upgrade. I have no sympathy for it at this point, because it's a Cat 5 only kind of event where that happens, and at this point you've had the whole season, and Cat 5 to Cat 4 is a self-selection. So if you want to be serious about it, just go to 4. You're not going to find much of a difference between the quality of racing between the 5s and the 4s, to be honest with you.
So what if you get the
what
if you get the one participant that's like, I'm going to try cross here, I'm going to do it at this race. I've never raced cross before. I've got a 1-day license, but he's not necessarily a 5.
Yeah, I don't.
And that guy wants to race. I'd be pissed.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, we can always come up with scenarios like that. Yeah, it's less than ideal.
I mean, the chances
for
of
that one particular individual, but the chance of that happening.
Yeah.
Hey, let me go out, one of the first weekends in December and try this thing I've never tried before at a venue that's usually 2 degrees and snowing or raining or something. I mean, the odds of that are very low.
I'm a road racer, and all the good professional road racers are now racing cross. So I need to do what they're doing.
I tried gravel and that didn't work.
Yeah, having no skill.
Yeah. So speaking of which, we are, well, no, I can't say that. I was going to say we're on to new, let's talk about gravel. Let's talk about fat biking. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. But that's not what we're on to yet. You guys still have nationals. You got nationals this week. Mm-hmm. It's your week. You got all the driving, travel, having fun at nationals, doing your thing. So the next podcast, we'll talk about that as well. But then we'll be moving back into other things. Who knows? I've got some ideas for cross for next season already. Mostly business-wise, things like that. Speaking of business-wise, hey, this episode, obviously, like all episodes, brought to you by Cymet and Enzo's cycling products, namely Buttonhole Chamois Cream. And doing something I've never done before. I'm running a sale for the month of December.
Yes.
All December, if you go to, the whole thing is we've always had a store, or not always, but we've had a store set up on the Enzo's Cycling Products website. But, we would much rather you go and buy it in person from a shop, if at all possible. But we also understand that that's not always possible. So instead of discounting any one particular product, we did throw a 20% off code for the month of December. That is going on, and it's don't kill me, I can't remember the code. It's holiday button 24. So the word holiday, the word button,
or is it
24? No,
button, just button.
Holiday button 24. Because I didn't want it to get too long. If you have any problems using the code, just email me. You can email me at at anything. You can email me at sales@enzocyclingproducts.com, or you can email me at cymet@cymet.com, or you can email me at roadisdead@gmail.com. If you have a question about the podcast, please do email me at roadisdead@gmail.com. Also, questions, please send them in. Want us to debate some hypotheticals? I would love to debate a hypothetical on here. So send it in. Hey, who would win in this situation? Or, is it better to do this or better to do that with a course or with the gear or with something else? Or even your training. Because, none of us are certified coaches to the best of my knowledge, correct? We're not certified coaches, but, we all have opinions.
I play one on TV.
Yeah.
Not really.
Sure.
You're not a certified coach? You're a certified coach? Or?
No, I don't.
You're a coach.
Nobody wants me to be a coach. I don't even want to be my.
Oh,
I don't even want to be a coach.
People want you to be a coach.
No,
people want you to be a coach.
No.
I can name a few people that would like for you to be a coach.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Well, I'm sure.
If you would like for Tim to be a coach, email us at roadisdead@gmail.com and tell us that he should be a coach.
Bring your box of tissues because I'll make you cry.
Oh yeah.
Some people want and need that. They need somebody that's
for sure.
gonna pull their head out of their ass, and you do good with that.
I'll make it worth it for you.
Are you saying that all of us aren't like the sensitive type that like to embrace everyone's shortcomings and tell them that they're useful members of society and that they're worth it and things like that? Because that's not exactly our style because of our age.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So free shipping as well.
What?
Free shipping on orders of $45
Oh, okay.
or more.
There you go.
So once you get to $45, hit that threshold, you will receive free shipping. Because I know sometimes I do have to have people pay for shipping, and sometimes that negates the savings and kind of makes it, But so stock up for stocking stuffers. On the website, we have our 8-ounce, our 2-ounce, as well as our travel size. This isn't it, but it represents it kind of. This one's too big. Our travel size 10's great stocking. So ride size, yes, correct. So you can use that code, stock up on 20, 30 of those, and give them away to your friends and family. Great stocking stuffers on there. I'm also going to put together a couple little packages here within a day or two for the rest of the month as nice little, hey, I want to try it. Haven't tried it before. And something not necessarily super expensive you can get into. 20% will still apply to that. So,
nice.
Give you an opportunity to try something. Or for the mega users, we'll get something going for you too. Don't be surprised if we end up with the, what is it, a half gallon?
Yeah.
It's a half gallon jar that we do have that we can fill for you in special requests, but it's equivalent to 8 jars.
Careful now.
8-ounce jars. So.
Oh, we got a big 55-gallon drum if you want to purchase that.
Right. What is a gallon? Is a gallon 64
No, that's
ounces?
120.
Okay, so yeah, it is a half-gallon jar, but so we do have a 55-gallon drum. If you do want to go that way, you probably don't want to pay what it's going to cost.
For life, you're set.
I don't know, man. I know some people that may go through that. It might take them a couple of years, but
I go through that in one cross season. Put it everywhere.
Just for your information, the pros that we have sponsored over the years, they usually get the half-gallon size because they don't want to waste all the plastic, and they go through a lot of it.
Yeah.
So. Always good to know. We will do the chamois cream game if you send in an email to roadisdead@gmail.com. And, we'll put your name in. Make sure that you have your address on there so I can get it shipped out to you. But anybody got anything else?
I wanted to ask Leah. Leah, I want to ask you a question. So you did 2 races Sunday, right?
Yes.
What was your total race time between the 2? Do you know?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Hold on.
25 minutes?
Race number 1 was 32 minutes.
Okay.
Race number 2 was 48.
Damn.
So do the math. That's
wow.
It's over an hour.
80.
So you're
80 minutes. Yeah.
You're 3 minutes over on that one.
Wow.
It's interesting. I was the last guy on the course for our race. The guy that was behind me, there was one behind me, and they cut him a lap early, maybe made him early finish. I had been lapped, but I still ended up getting the last one in, and I was literally, they had already done the podiums. I was talking to somebody on our team, and I was like, yeah, sorry I missed your podium. I was still finishing the race, something I hate doing.
Yeah.
But I finished at 43:43, and ours was a 45-minute race. So I was the absolute last person on course at 43:43.
Feel like we could have gotten another lap. We got 41 minutes out of 45, and we were cutting sub-6s.
Yeah, you guys could have gotten.
We could have gotten 8 laps,
but you would have been over. You would have been over
a minute. A minute.
Yeah.
Leah went over by 3 minutes.
And there was a big cut in your guys' field. They could have early finished those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious to know what the winners of the women's 1-2 got, because I heard that Maria, Erin, Feldhausen, and maybe another girl got an extra lap while everyone else got cut. So I'm curious to see what their time was. I guess I could just go look it up in the results.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did set not a record, but a second place 1 minute power for this year. And it was from the start all the way up to the top of Cricket Hill.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people did.
Well, it was from just before the turn all the way up to the top of Cricket Hill.
Well, yeah, because you were probably under braking at the turn. Yeah. And then you had to get on the gas again. So from there up makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason why I hit the brakes there, first lap, it was a traffic jam. You heard a bunch of screeching and, when you start back as far as me, you don't necessarily get a clean look at that corner.
Dude, I look.
Yeah, mine
until lap 2.
Yeah,
I was the same. I got a highest 1 minute power in the last 90 days, and it was at the start of the 35 plus race, which was the first race I did.
Yeah, see, maybe that's why your legs were hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's legs were hurting probably. So,
I've tried to address this with a little bit of a tweak in my warm up, and what happens with me is the first hard effort, really hard digging effort, it just blows my legs out.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I can keep doing that effort, but it doesn't have that same effect on me. So I try to do that in my warm up, and I did try to get that first blow it out effort in my warm up, but apparently it wasn't enough, or this is just a result of a lot of the key training that I missed coming into this. So I don't know.
Could be.
Is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, don't obsess about it.
Yeah.
I mean, continue on as you've been doing and it'll be fine.
Well, I guess the only thing that leaves me with the question of, is there something else I need to be doing in my warm up? Am I doing that blowout effort? Am I doing that too far away from the start? And there's too much time spent, get off the bike. I got to give myself time to get my bike into the pits. And
how much time do you leave between you getting off the trainer and going to the line?
I would say I'm getting off the trainer probably 20 to 25 minutes before the start of my race.
Take 10 minutes off of that. Go to the line with like 15 minutes to go. Like, you should get off the train. I've kind of been doing this all season to try to like dial it in, and I feel like with a pit bike, I bring my bike to the pit and just leave it there before the women's 1-2. So it's sitting in there for well over an hour. But that's a box that's something I don't even have to think about. Like, I'll set my pressures to what I want, and I'll just go drop it off. It's just going to sit there.
Did you get your second bike? Because it was in the pits through the entire men's race.
I did. Thank you for the text. I'm like, why is Rob texting me to get my ass to the pits? And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, my bike. I should probably go get it.
Well, you walked over and you were kind of staring at the pits, and I was like, you going to come in here or what?
Yeah, I find like the less time you have, the less of the gap between getting off your warm up and getting to the start line, the better, because your body doesn't have that chance to bring itself down into that kind of like that rest state where your lactic acid will build up again. So if you can keep like sweating, even if you put your tights on or your coat on and you can keep your body warm and loose, and then ride over to staging, ride around like you've been doing, just to keep your body moving and activated. Like I did that, and I go to staging and I don't sit still. Like, everyone just goes to staging and sits there. I just keep riding.
Yeah.
I just keep riding around until we get called in, and then it's 5 minutes to go. But there's a lot of added anxiety and stress that comes with having such a small window.
That's the thing. I'm so nervous about being there because I have, like I said, get my bike to the pits. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to grab my gel. I need to, all these things that I want to do. And then I'm always over there with all of this time to spare before they even think about staging us. And so I really, like you said, there's 10 minutes in there I did not need to be standing around.
Yeah. It takes a lot of practice to just get it like super dialed into where like where timing for even your pre-warm up or pre-race little last gel or liquid or whatever you're going to do, and all those little things, it's such a matter of just like timing. And then, you could,
Anthony and I will be there for your race at Nationals. So anything that we can do to get your bike in the pits and take care of anything before your race. Because I have Anthony there for my race too, that's something because I can just say, all right, I'm warming up on my B bike usually. So I can just jump off and make him responsible
it's
for
a huge relief.
Get that off the trainer, put the front wheel back on, get it into the pits while I just jet over to the staging.
Yeah. So it's much easier. And like, that's why I panicked, called Rob. Rob was like, I was sitting on the trainer doing my warm up, and I'm like, Anthony's gone. I don't know where. I'm like, the pressure started to build, because I'm like, I got to take this rear wheel off. I got to put my front wheel on. I got to do this, got to do that. And I started to freak out. And then I was like, wait, Rob's in the tent. So at the top of my lungs, I was like, Curtis! and he poked his head out, and he's like, what?
I was sitting in the tent, and it was like, is somebody calling my name?
Yeah. I was like,
maybe. I was like, kind of sounds like Tim. Yeah. Is he outside on the? Let me go see what's going on.
Yeah. I was like, well, Rob didn't get his attention, so I just yelled, Curtis, really loud, and he poked his head out, and he's like, what's up? And I'm like, and I started asking him to handle a couple things for me, and thankfully you did. So I appreciate that again, because it just takes that 2 to 5 minutes of stress away. So it's super huge. And in an event like Nationals, again, like, it's another bike race, but to have someone on your side that's ready to do that last minute stuff that you don't have to do is so huge. So huge.
Yeah.
Even on a local level, it helps out so much.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Anthony, if you're listening.
Yeah. He will.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm done.
All right. That's all we've got for today. We'll check in again next week.
Yep.
And get a download from everybody. Just talk about Nationals, kind of how that goes and everything. I do have to admit, it was kind of funny. They did cancel the World Cup in Sardinia.
Yeah.
Yesterday because of high winds and everything else like that. And I will say that our race in the Windy City went off without a hitch when there was 60-mile-an-hour winds, 40-mile-an-hour winds the night before, and the course was all set up and everything else. We were there bright and early and racing in the morning. So, maybe that World Cup should happen in Chicago.
Oh, no way. No.
We've had UCI races here.
It's different, dude. No, don't.
It would be nice to have some World Cups outside of
because nobody's going to show up. All the Europeans you want to see aren't going to show up.
Yeah, and that's never going to.
We don't go to America.
Yeah, I mean, at least they would when it was at Trek, and Trek sponsored half of them and told them they had to come.
Yeah,
and then that made some others feel like they wanted to show up, but then in that one fell swoop, they made all the World Cups kind of pointless and not worth anything, and at the same time, basically lost World Cup status at Trek. So, I mean, there's no reason to come over.
What's the wasted dollar amount in that just cancellation? It's got to be tens of thousands, no?
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
They did a special podcast on the Cycling Social podcast. They did one yesterday.
I like that.
I listened to it on the way back from the race yesterday, and they basically said that the promoters were saying they needed to have at least 3,000 people show up to the race for them to break even on the event.
Oh, wow.
And now none of that happened. Not only that event, the event is screwed. All the athletes that traveled there because they were there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All that travel. And a lot of those teams and a lot of those athletes don't have the money to do it. So,
it's a heartbreaker.
Yay us, our sport, scraping $1 at a time. But at least the top people in it, are making $1 million or $2 or $3 or $5 or $10, actually making some money. So they got that going for them. In that same podcast, they were talking about the fact that Wout van Aert is getting something like 80 or 85,000 euros per race that he shows up at as a start fee in cyclocross.
I'm actually surprised that that's not more.
It very well could be, but if you think about that, and he put together a 4 or 5 race series.
I think it's like 6. I don't know, whatever.
That he announced out of there. Do that math real quick. That's a good payday for most people. So
most people don't even make that amount of money in their 9-to-5s.
I understand. Yeah, that's 5-6 years worth of work for them.
Yeah.
God,
must be nice.
Why can't I be Wout van Aert? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will catch everybody next week again. We've got a sale over at enzoscyclingproducts.com. It's all one word, enzoscyclingproducts.com, where you can buy your buttonhole chamois cream in the store. Find the store at the top. It'll say store for a link. Click on that. You can shop in there. Pretty basic little shop. You go in, throw it all in the cart. As you check out, it'll say, ask you for a coupon code. Use holiday button 24, holiday button 24. And if you spend over $45, you'll also get free shipping. So, there you go. So support us if you feel like doing that. It would be greatly appreciated. Apart from that, we will hopefully a lot of these guys will see you out at nationals if you're out at nationals. If not, keep listening. We'll be back at you next week. Thanks for joining us and enjoy the ride.